Welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Commercial Drones FM. I'm Ian. I'm here at Kittyhawk HQ in San Francisco with one of my previous guests, along with one of his newest employees. We've got Josh Ziering here from Kittyhawk. And Josh, tell us your last name.
Josh Pruitt.
Josh Pruitt. I swear I didn't forget. So welcome back to the show, Josh. Josh Ziering was a guest in episode number 22 back in November of 2016.
The good old days, Ian, the good old days.
That's what we call them now.
So, my friends call me Jay-Z. I just feel like for clarity, it's one of those things.
Exactly, yeah. Josh Ziering, Jay-Z, that's how we're going to refer to you. Can you tell us a little about yourself? We're not going to call you Jay-Z. We're just going to call you Josh.
Excellent. So, my name is Joshua Pruitt. I am a commercial drone pilot, now turned Kittyhawk customer success manager. I have 3 years in the industry, flying all over the world, doing all kinds of amazing things with drones.
Nice. Cool. Well, I want to get a little bit more into that. But first of all, with this episode, it's been, I don't know how many months, but almost 24 months since last time, maybe less, like 18 months since we last.
Too long.
I know, it's been too long. But and the last episode was so fun. And maybe you guys can tell us a little bit, starting with you, Jay-Z, what's new with Kittyhawk? And then Josh, maybe you could chime in a little bit and tell us what you're going to be kind of heading up and spearheading. So let's tell us, actually, the people who are new listening to this and don't know Kittyhawk, what is Kittyhawk?
That's a great question. So Kittyhawk is a full stack enterprise drone solution. If you have a team of hundreds of people flying drones in an enterprise, how do you manage that? That's one person with a drone solves a lot of problems. But when you have hundreds of people flying drones, that's a huge problem. How do you deal with planning, coordinating, compliance, safety, and data analysis? This is a really big, audacious problem that Kittyhawk is solving for the enterprise.
And so what kind of actual products do you guys create to help solve that? Can you give us some examples?
So Kittyhawk is multi-platform. We're iOS, we're Android, we have a web interface. It doesn't matter where you are. The notion is we want to show you the information you need to do your job at the right time. So if you fly a desk and you're managing all of these people flying drones, you need to know, is my team being compliant? Are they being safe? If you're out in the field operating a drone, you need the most seamless flight planning and logging operations possible so that you can go and do your job and go home and kick the dog and hug the kids.
Exactly. And so I remember last time you were on the show on episode 22, you talked about how one of the unique differentiators was that you guys had your phone number or something kind of in the app. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, they could just literally call you or text you. Yeah,
it was actually a good turning point for Kittyhawk when I was out on a date on a Saturday night and the Kittyhawk hotline rings, that hotline bling, if you will. And I'm like, I really shouldn't answer this, but I can't help myself. I need to know who on a Saturday night is nerdy enough to love drones as much as me. And I pick up the phone and it's this dude from Australia.
And then it was Josh, wasn't it? No.
Yeah, I wish it was Josh, if only. No, and he was like, yeah, man, how does this work? I'm like, hit this. He goes, oh, thanks, mate. Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
So yeah, we now have, luckily, I don't have to answer all the support requests anymore. We now have help. But yeah, you can still get to us from the app, and that's one of the things we love talking to our customers.
And so that's one of the, what I wanted to kind of transition into, Josh. So in your role, tell us what you're going to be doing at Kittyhawk. You used to be a Kittyhawk, obviously you're still a Kittyhawk user. So someone once told me that when I call people of users of apps, it just sounds like you're a drug addict or something. I'm a user. But anyways, we say user, everyone says it. So without being too politically correct, you're ex-Kittyhawk user and current user.
I am definitely still a current Kittyhawk user, and I was the number one user of Kittyhawk for a long time. 2 years, Josh?
2.5 years.
So 2.5 years is the number one user with the most flights and most hours logged in the software.
How many flights, Josh?
3,016 as of yesterday.
We'll have to add a couple to this afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. You guys do the fly day on Fridays. It's a Friday, by the way.
Friday.
Shout out, while we're doing the intro here, huge shout out to Mr. Robert Van Gool. We actually had a technical issue. One of my XLR cables for my third mic was fouling up, and Robert went out and he's
he's an innocent bystander. He's sitting in the side right now, but he went out to I don't know. I think it was voted one of the sketchiest music stores in San Francisco on Market Street, and then went and picked us up a very, very nice XLR cable. So appreciate that. It sounds great on Josh's mic. How many employees are you guys now, Jay-Z?
Wow. So as of yesterday, we are 16.
16 employees. And last time you guys were here, it was about 3?
It was 3, yeah.
3.
So the head count has doubled in the last 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
The Kittyhawk conspiracy is growing.
And why is that? You guys must have had some type of big announcement.
Yeah, it was a big announcement. We raised a little bit of money, $5 million with participation from Boeing. They're, I guess, I don't know how do you say this in a nice way, the largest aerospace company in the world. So that feels okay. Not terribly upset about that.
Yeah. It's more of like a strategic investor, I would imagine. And you've got some kind of like, I guess, integration with one of their other kind of, is Jeppesen a division of Boeing, or is it a Boeing company?
They're a Boeing company.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jeppesen is basically, I call it the Bible. So Ian, you're a pilot, right? Do you remember those leather-bound books of just those really big, thick books full of maps that were the JEP books? I mean, so that's that's formerly what JEP does, but now we're moving into the digital age, and they're leveling up like everybody else. So they still have all that awesome airspace data, but now it's available digitally, and they saw an opportunity to work with Kittyhawk, and we saw an opportunity to work with one of the best airspace information providers in the world.
Yeah, it's a great integration. Kudos to you guys on that. So I want to go into so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that stuff as we move on. But I want to go into some of like the current events in the industry, because I always know these are fun.
Is this when you put like a cool news song on, like?
I can totally, yeah. Wait for it. Was it? It was good?
Excellent.
Okay,
Excellent.
Cool. So I'll put that in, no problem. So let's talk about Section 336. So the reason why I bring 336 up is because Jay-Z, I have seen you on social media. You have opinions on Section 336. But before we start with Section 336 and why this is even a topic of what we're talking about, can you explain what happened and what's the deal with, while being as unbiased at first as possible? So what's going on with Section 336? Whichever one of you guys wants to chime in here.
All right. So Section 101, Part 336. This is the model airplane carve-out. And what this says is that Congress and the FAA are really, they leave the modelers alone. This was the whole notion. It was a good piece of legislation when it came out. This lets people who want to go fly model airplanes and be hobbyists and do all of these things be exempt from, for example, having a medical examination, or having to get a license, or having to be subject to, all of these kind of crazy regulations, which makes sense in other contexts. But if you really want to build a balsa wood toothpick version of the spruce goose, and then go out, take your hard work, pride and joy, things you've spent hundreds of hours on, toss it into the air, and perilously hope that it will fly, you can do so.
And so what's the drama then? Like, what happened? And why is this a hot topic right now?
So the hot topic is, unfortunately, the line between hobbyist and kind of, let's call it, amateur operator is starting to blur. So if you can take something out of the package and it's already ready to fly, you're no longer working on this thing that's going to be your pride and joy. Now you can fly beyond visual line of sight with almost no effort, no education. You can just take this thing out of the box and go wreak havoc with almost no regard for anything else that's happening alongside or near you.
And so Section 3, so did you guys start as like hobbyist pilots, I guess? With
Josh, how did you start? I actually don't know this.
Kind of, sort of. So I got started in the drone industry. I bought a one-way ticket to South America, and I bought a Phantom 3, and I spent a year backpacking South America with a Phantom 3. This was
How big was this
pre-107. Yeah, carrying the full-size case as well as like a huge duffel bag on my back all around South America with this drone. Pre-107, so I was still a hobbyist, but making money. So it was very.
You were outside of the U.S.
Yeah, so no one cares we're outside of the U.S., right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm just kind of
There's no
blowing
FAA
hot air, but okay. So you kind of you started off kind of as a hobbyist, but then you were kind of using it, okay, like maybe I can make some money with this during my travels.
Yeah, so started as like just taking pictures, making videos for myself, and as I traveled further and got a little better, I was getting approached by hostels and tour companies and hotel owners. Hey, you know, we'll trade you 2 nights for some photos. We'll take you on a week-long tour if you'll document it with your drone. And the end result was actually flying on Easter Island for the Chilean Park Service and got to spend 2 months living on Easter Island, which not many people get to do.
So did you start off with this actually as just like, this isn't going to be like my career or anything. This is just kind of like a cool piece of technology that maybe I can just get some cool pictures with.
I love tech, so this was a cool new toy that has now blossomed into this crazy career that here I am.
That's amazing. Okay. And so how do you guys feel then about Section 336? Because what's happening is basically, I think it was, what was it, Congress? I always screw this up. I always mess up on like all these different parts of our government. But if I'm not mistaken, it's like basically the rule came down and it said, sorry, there are no longer these like small little carve-outs of not having to kind of comply to a lot of these quote unquote commercial drone regulations for hobbyist users anymore. So now hobbyist users have to, like, for example, register their drone and like register their model aircraft, using the air quotes again, and then comply with all these other rules. So is that kind of going to kill the hobby? Is this good for the commercial drone industry? Like, where do we stand here on the two sides of this?
So I think it's this is where I have my own personal trepidation, right? It's like, I think back to, 17 years ago when I took my first model airplane to the park, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to fly over there. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to bring it back in. I'm going to land softly at my feet, hucked this thing into the air, and proceeded to destroy it into a million pieces at the local park.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm firmly into the idea that the hobby provides people an outlet, an opportunity. There would be no Kittyhawk today if I didn't fly model airplanes. This was a passion that turned into a career for me. So when I think about, Section 336, we need to be able to protect hobbyists. And do we want people in STEM? And do we want, the next generation of aviators to be able to go fly airplanes? This is critically important. I think about, if I didn't have this opportunity, I'd probably be working in advertising somewhere, and that would be miserable. So now I also know that for the commercial drone industry to exist, we need common sense standards. I know that the technology is advancing so quickly that what used to be, hey, I'm going to go fly this model airplane at the local park, is not like that anymore. Now we have all of this capability. And with that capability, what is it, Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
We need to have common sense regulations about this new and awesome technology.
Yeah, definitely, that are keeping up with the technology, because Section 101, Part 336 was designed for the AMA guys, the guys that are making these aircraft in their house and then going out and flying it. It wasn't designed for the guys going to Best Buy or your whatever big box store you want to, picking up a drone off the shelf with no experience. They can put it in the air and fly anywhere they want to, basically unrestricted.
When I talk to people that, they're like, I bought a drone, and they don't know I work in drones, right? They're just kind of mentioning it in passing. I always kind of in my heart, I'm like, man, I wish you could have learned to fly the way I learned to fly, where you take your pride and joy, you throw it in the air, and it destroys itself very, very conspicuously in front of you.
But there was so much knowledge that went along with that, right? As an AMA guy, as a guy building those model aircraft, there was so much knowledge and skill that went into building these aircraft. There's none of that really anymore on the hobbyist side. Sure, you can build your own multi-rotor, but more often than not, people are going into these big box change and buying.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I was not an AMA member when I started. I just saw this thing on the internet and I wanted to go fly in the local park. And then when I discovered the AMA, I'm like, this is awesome. I have insurance. Like, this is going to happen. And then there's fields where you can go fly at, like getting, at the local park, there's 3 questions. How high does it go? How fast does it go? And can I try next? Right? It was like, no, I want to go to the field.
Oh yeah, those are the days. That's how I started. I mean, that's how I got into it. At NASA JSC, there was a field there that was fine to use, and I learned on the buddy system of the radios. My dad and I built the balsa wood airplane with the heat shrink. It was just a crazy pain, but you learn so much. And then we could talk about this for ages. I mean, I'm firmly in the camp of like, okay, I care more, unfortunately, these days. I care more about the kind of moving the industry forward, as it were. And in order for it to scale, I feel like these things like Section 336 and everything and the drama that goes around that are kind of a necessary evil. And that also ties into remote ID. And so remote ID, the concept most people are familiar where in order to promote some sense of responsibility and kind of anonymity.
Anonymity.
There you go.
Anonymity. That your aircraft, if you're operating it remotely, should be able to be remotely ID'd, like an airborne license plate. And so these kind of things tie into each other. So like hobbyists should have to, because they are flying in this is me speaking, my opinion, because they're flying in the national airspace system, have to kind of, I guess, cooperate with this once there is a standard. So there is no remote ID standard yet. And I don't know, do you guys have thoughts on remote ID? Any quick little takes on that?
We're staunchly in favor of transparency and inclusion in regulation and rulemaking. So for us, I'd love if there was a standard for remote ID. And today you have the option in Kittyhawk, if you'd so choose, to share your location as flying in Kittyhawk with people and various data partners that we have. So if you want to say, hey, I'm operating over here legally and compliantly, you can upstream all that information into the Kittyhawk UTM.
This episode of Commercial Drones FM is brought to you by FLIR. Pretty much everyone in the commercial drone world knows about FLIR's thermal imaging technologies and may even have a basic understanding of how their sensors work. At Commercial Drones FM, we think this technology is deserving of the spotlight to reveal some of the incredible things thermal imaging drones can accomplish. Drones equipped with thermal imagers offer a way to see the world from a different perspective, which can help identify infrastructure problems, locate missing people, and increase safety and efficiency across a variety of industries. The value of thermal imaging for commercial drone operations is undeniable. So I want to use this podcast as a platform to dive deep into the world of heat and seek out the best practices and the unique use cases that make thermal imaging sensors the most drone-ready payload for commercial drone applications right next to RGB cameras. So join us over the coming months as we invite FLIR and their customers into our studio to discuss the technical and practical uses of their groundbreaking efforts in aerial thermal imagery. This episode of Commercial Drones FM is brought to you by Deveron UAS. Deveron UAS offers enterprise drone services for farmland across North America. I recently spoke with Bonduelle, one of Deveron's largest customers.
So my name is Jennifer Thompson. I work for Bonduelle America's Long Life. We're a vegetable processor. Bonduelle is a very large company with 54 plants in the world. Here in North America, we have 11 plants doing frozen and canned vegetables.
So naturally, I wanted to know, how is Deveron helping one of the largest vegetable processors in the world by using drone technology?
So we use Deveron to service and support our precision agricultural needs. For us, it's not easy to have our own or fly our own drones to gather crop data. So Deveron is ready and available to work for us when needed. We fly thousands of acres, and managing those acres, it just works very easily with them in our fast-paced growing season. They're not just providing data, they're helping to solve issues and find solutions.
Well, that's very important work, but what's your favorite crop to eat?
My favorite crop to eat is sweet corn. I will eat sweet corn 365 days of the year.
I'm not sure if I've ever eaten sweet corn yet that was monitored by drone. To learn more, visit deveronuas.com/dronesfm and see for yourself how Deveron is leading collaboration in agriculture with drones. That's deveronuas.com/dronesfm. Okay, back to the show.
This is a perfect segue then into LANC, because LANC, and if you don't know what LANC is, it's LAANC. It's an acronym, Low Altitude Airspace Notification Capability. You guys, when I say you guys, I mean Kittyhawk, the royal Kittyhawk.
The Kittyhawk conspiracy.
The Kittyhawk conspiracy, the Kitty card, which Robert busted out to buy that XLR cable. You guys are partnered with Jeppesen, who we mentioned earlier, and this kind of like goes into LANC integration. So tell us just both from your own perspectives about LANC, what this is with Jeppesen, the partnership, and then how this is affecting the industry in regards to unmanned traffic management.
I think LANC makes absolute sense as a commercial operator who's had to file for airspace waivers and wait weeks and months to go out and do the job. I am all in favor of Lance. And as we kind of spoke about it before we started the podcast, it is kind of a rudimentary remote ID if you think about it. So I am all in favor of Lance, and I'm so glad that we are preparing rather for Lance integration with the Kittyhawk platform.
So okay, you mentioned earlier, Jay-Z, the option in Kittyhawk to flip on your location, like, hey, I'm flying here, broadcasting to other services. Is this all kind of like in the same little ecosystem here of Lance, the Jeppesen, here's my location? Are you guys kind of prepping for more of an integration or part of being part of a universe or unmanned traffic management?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's really been the market change in the last 18 months, I guess since episode 22, if you will, is that, we kind of had people coming to us and saying, hey, we'd love that real-time flight data. And after like the second or third request for that, I was like, wait a minute. And I'd love to say I'm a forward-thinking visionary that's able to see the future. I was like, wait, we should just be a UTM service provider ourselves, a USS. And I said, this is ridiculous. Let's just go do this. And that's basically where we said, all right, let's go do this. This is worthwhile. This is an inevitability for us to have this commercial drone ecosystem in the future that we think about. We need to be providing this to our users.
Let me tee something up for you.
Uh-oh. This is always trouble.
You said the word, the initialism USS. So I want everyone to know there's actually a difference between an acronym and an initialism. Lance is an acronym. USS is an initialism. Thank you. That is my pet peeve that I would like to pass on to all the listeners.
I'm going to one-up you.
Oh, please do.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, this is my personality. I can't help it. But Linux, right? Linux stands for Linux is not Unix.
Uh-huh.
So it's oh no, now I can't think of the word, but it's a recurring acronym.
Huh.
No, it's not recurring. Recursive. It's recursive acronyms. Linux is not Unix. Well, what does Linux stand for? Linux is not Unix.
Oh, that's what it stands for.
Yeah, it's a recursive acronym.
Today I learned.
Yeah.
I learned
okay.
it. Yeah, useless, but
God,
now
I
you
don't
know.
even, oh, now I know what I was going to say. Okay, USS. So at the topic of USS. So USS, unmanned service.
UAS service supplier.
UAS service supplier, sorry. Thank you. UAS service supplier. There are a grand total of 5 of those that are recognized by the FAA. So you have to be recognized by the FAA. Right now they are AirMap, I believe Project Wing, Google, Skyward,
Amazon,
Rockwell Collins.
Boeing.
There's
There's some others too. There's more than they have on the website.
The list is rapidly expanding.
Well, because they opened up, and that's what I was going to ask, is because they opened up the registration to become a USS recently, within the past 3 to 6 months. I remember looking at the application deadline. I'm imagining that Kittyhawk is already on that list or soon going to be.
They did. In Baltimore, the FAA said we're going to open up applications to become a USS. Kittyhawk was, I hope, the first application in. We were really diligent and had everything ready to go. So we are now in the middle of a 6-month USS application process. I can bore you with all the details about it, but I will defer to you.
And I thought of you guys whenever because I was like, okay, well, duh, Kittyhawk is like probably already all over this. They already knew this was probably coming. They're ready, submitted the application immediately. What does that enable for you guys then? Now you can become a Lance, because you have the integration with Jeppesen,
Yep.
which we talked about earlier,
Yep.
which kind of gives some Lance capability because Jeppesen is a USS. What is this going to enable for Kittyhawk then once your application is approved and you guys are a USS? Say it again. Unmanned UAS service supplier.
Say it with me now.
UAS
Yes.
service supplier. There we go.
So I think the most important thing that Kittyhawk brings to the table here when we think about USS and Lance is there are a lot of people who can give you an authorization. Hey, I want to fly here. And they say, yes, you can fly here. Great. Thanks for the reservation. Here's the information you need. This is your approval. But Kittyhawk can actually prove compliance because we have the full stack solution. We're able to say, not only did you get the Lance authorization to fly in this area, but we can actually verify that you adhered to it. This is a market change, right? Not everybody can do this. And being able to say, wow, we offered, let's call it 2,000 Lance authorizations last week or whatever it's going to be. And of those, 99.99% of them adhered to the authorization they were given. That's powerful data. We're going to be able to share those insights with the rest of the industry.
Yeah, these are just the building blocks to create that, universal UTM. And so there's been some cool stuff in the news with seeing like AirMap and Google and whatever bounce off each other, inter-USS kind of confederated communication where drones that are filing a flight plan on one USS's system can talk to the other one and all these things.
Which we are now a member of, by the way.
Perfect. So what is it
it's an open source standard.
So it's open source.
It's super exciting, very inclusive, very transparent. We are so excited to be a part of that.
How many employees? Wait, so we already know how many employees. How many users? That's what I was going to ask. Users of Kittyhawk, or did we already cover this?
No, I don't think. I
remember talking
last.
Oh yeah,
time,
you're a user.
I am a Kittyhawk user, and I think the tallies are a little bit over 71,000 users on the platform right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to shame you for being a 1%er, but in that way, you're kind of a 1%er. So.
So that's a lot of users. I'm sure obviously Boeing and the other folks involved in the funding round saw that and then saw the potential here, especially with the whole industry. You mentioned the future of Kittyhawk, Jay-Z, and I want to get your thoughts before Josh. I mean, where do you see this going, and what were some of the reasons? Obviously, you were a heavy Kittyhawk, software user, logging thousands of flights on the platform, using probably all the different features. But what made you decide, like, okay, cool, I'm ready to make this jump into the company right now, work for them, and then where do you see that kind of heading in the future?
So, I started using Kittyhawk while I was still backpacking through South America. And Josh and John reached out to me about doing beta when I was back in the States. And it kind of grew from there. They saw that I was becoming their number one user, and they started building me up and bringing a lot of positive things about the industry into my career. And it's kind of gone back and forth. And after this round of funding came about, Josh reached out and I jumped in head first without any kind of hesitation.
And so where do you see, over, I don't know, what are your kind of visions of this? Being someone that was on the ground, using the software, logging everything, what are some of the things that really excite you about the direction of the company and where it's heading?
So I am hoping to bring, from my boots on the ground experience, to bring that to our enterprise clients to, basically help them navigate the software to make them champions of the software, just like myself.
And you guys get a ton of user interaction on the last episode I did before we are recording this now. I called Kittyhawk, what did I call it? The cult.
I believe cult was the word you
used.
The
cult favorite. And you know why I say that? I feel like I need to explain this to you is because I feel like, and it reminds me a lot of the user feedback at Drone Deploy, was that it's it becomes this kind of community that you've built around it. And then people are super, you're not even incentivizing them to talk to you. They're just talking to you because they're so passionate. And so that's why I called it cult, because also some of the incumbents that are potentially competitors or viewed as somewhat competitive as you guys have kind of had a little bit of larger teams, maybe more funding before you guys. And so that was the impetus kind of for using that adjective to describe you guys. But I don't think it's far off. I think it's extremely advantageous to be in that position.
It's funny, having just gotten off the fundraising trail, one of the things that we put in our presentations, we don't have users. We have zealots. And I'm telling you.
That's what we're calling them now. No more users.
There's no more users, just zealots. And, what does it say about me that I'm picking up the phone on a Saturday night to answer support requests? But what does it say about our user base that they're calling a number on a Saturday night for support for their drone stuff? This is a market change of anyone can use software. I use TurboTax. I don't tell people. I'm not excited about this, right? It's who cares? But we have a very passionate user base that, believe me, they are not shy about sharing feedback. And when it's good, it's good. But man, if we ship something that they're not happy with, we hear about it quick.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, but that's amazing to get that though. And Josh, you're gonna be fielding a lot of that.
The Kittyhawk hotline is still very much a thing. It just rings to me now.
Just you wait, Josh. Just you wait.
I'm really interested to hear from the Kittyhawk zealots / users after the episode. And I think, so the last kind of question and what I wanted to kind of touch on here is back to Jay-Z, to Josh Ziering here. So the future of Kittyhawk, before we pressed record here, you mentioned that you were able to look out 10 to 15 years in the future and talk about that. And normally when I ask this question, I'm like, what about 3 to 5 years in the future? And everyone's always like, ooh, that's so hard. But you seem like you've got this very clear vision on where you want things to head or things could head. So Tell us about that.
So one of my favorite phrases is I love to say, look, I live in the future. I just have to exist here in the past. And like 3 to 5 years, that's table stakes. Like, all right, great. Oh, we're going to have UTM and here come the regulations and larger than 55 pounds. Great. Anyone could predict that. I'm really more interested in this idea that one, Kittyhawk is where flight happens. I don't want to do anything with crewed aircraft. I don't want to carry passengers, but the autonomous future is coming. And so all three of us sitting at this table, we're going to be antiques. We're going to be legacy. And we're going to be telling people, I remember when you used to have to use 2 sticks to fly a drone, Sonny, get off my lawn. And that time is coming where now we have, all right, autonomous aircraft. And everyone's like, oh, I want drone delivery of burritos. Great, that's exciting, but that's really not the killer use case. This autonomous future is coming. And when we think about now, and this is what's so exciting over the last 3 years, urban air mobility, right? So we have folks like Uber and their Vahana project and the other Kittyhawk, which, they're making a flying car as well.
I have to make the distinction anytime I say the word Kittyhawk.
But now we're going to have this urban air mobility. And what does that mean? Well, if we think about, let's take UTM to its logical conclusion. Now we have manned and unmanned aircraft flying in the same low altitude airspace autonomously, carrying people, goods, items. This is now more than just a burrito delivery. This is something real. And I mean, it is a goal of mine. I have it on a list somewhere of I want to show up to one of our meetings in the urban air mobility vehicle, whatever you want to call it, the air taxi. And while I'm there, I want to see a drone going by that Kittyhawk is helping manage their flight path. And it sounds outlandish and crazy, but I close my eyes and I feel like we can be there. Like it's just one of those things. It feels inevitable.
If Uber opened up their urban little Uber Elevate, and they had like the Oakland to San Francisco leg, would you guys get on that like today? Like if it was like the first, like imagine, okay, all their little closed beta testing is done.
Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, I'll take that ride.
No, I want to be the beta tester.
Yeah, okay.
I need exclusive access. I don't know how well you know me. I need to be the first guy in that thing.
Well, good. You guys are located close to them, so they're going to need some assistance. I'm sure they're not going to try to do everything themselves. Actually, they're definitely not doing everything themselves. That's like literally the purpose of the Elevate conference in LA, the yearly conference that they have. They bring all their potential partners in there. So really cool, guys. I did notice one thing on a little bit of investigative kind of not reporting, but analysis or just kind of like keeping up with everything. Are you guys getting into photogrammetry at all? I noticed a job posting on your website.
Well, I can tell you this. As the full stack drone solution, we get a lot of feature requests where people are saying, look, I use Kittyhawk for all of these different things. I want to be able to do all of my work inside of Kittyhawk. And so when we get feature requests like that, it's our job to listen. But second, when it's clear that there could be a solution that would help people operate more efficiently, yeah, we work on that stuff. We like to build things. So
nice.
What is the answer? The answer is stay tuned.
That's a good way to leave
Very
it.
diplomatic.
Indeed.
I've never been called that before. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
So guys, before we shut off the mics, any last thoughts to leave the zealots from Kittyhawk who are listening or anyone else? Where can they go learn more? What's your website?
So you can learn more at kittyhawk.io. If you're running an enterprise, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I have a lot of little kind of Kittyhawk hot takes, enterprise drone insights. It's Joshua Ziering on LinkedIn. And we're on Twitter at kittyhawk.io and on Facebook, kittyhawk.io. So if you are thinking about how do I create a high ROI drone program in my organization, we're here to help.
And Josh, what's your number so they can call you at 10 p.m. on Saturday night?
Hotline Bling.
Yeah, Hotline Bling. You'll find that on the website.
Awesome. Well, cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for being guests on the show. Really cool to see how much, it's a testament to just the drone industry growing, seeing Boeing come in and swooping in with an investment round, the integration with Jeppesen, the crazy passionate customers, going from 3 employees to like 16. I mean, that's all amazing stuff to see. So best of luck for everything in the future. I'm sure I'll have you guys back on the show sometime. Maybe we won't wait maybe 18 months, but we'll we'll do something again. Maybe
Thank you for having us, Ian.
in the hundreds.
I'm
of
thinking
episodes.
maybe like 107, right? Part 107, commercial drone operations.
That's gonna be.
Am I calling my shot? I'm just saying.
I think
about
you
it.
you gave me an idea at least.
Ian, thanks a lot for having us, man. Really appreciate you having us on today.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, guys. We had so everyone, that was Joshua Ziering, Jay-Z, and also Josh Pruitt. We're both Joshuas. I don't know.
We're the Josh and Josh show.
The Josh and Josh show. So we had the Joshes from Kittyhawk on. Awesome, guys. Thanks again, and we are going to cut off the mics.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Ian.
Cheers.